Claudia Pineiro.
Claudia Piñeiro.
Okay, I'll leave it with you saying that. That's much better. Is an Argentine novelist and screenwriter best known for her crime mystery novels, most of which were bestsellers. She was born in Buenos Aires and has won numerous literary prizes. 4 of her novels have been translated into English by Bitter Lemon Press, including Betty Boo, A Crack in the Wall, and All Yours. Welcome to the Bibliophile.
Thank you very much.
How did you get started as a writer?
Oh, it's a long way, because my family, there was no writers, no artists, so it was difficult to me to think me as a writer. When I was very young, a little girl, I used to write. I always write. I write since I know how to write, but I couldn't think me as a writer, because
There's no example.
yes, I think the writer was a very important person, very far from me. So I write, and then when I had to go to the university, I want to study sociologist, but there was a year in the middle of the dictadura militar in Argentina, and
the dirty war.
Yes, and they closed all the humanistic universities, so I had to choose between other options, and I study economy. So I start to work as an economy, but I always write and go to. In Buenos Aires, it's very common that a writer gives classes about how to write, creative writing. I went there, and one day I said, I can't go on working on numbers or on mathematics and that kind of things.
Yeah.
And I asked in my shop to take a license, because I think I will take a license and I will write a novel.
License? What do you mean?
License is vacations, holidays, but not a little bit more than vacations.
It's kind of a leave. Mm-hmm. You didn't get paid then?
No. That's the point. So I take it and I write a novel, because I was going in a plane to Brazil, and I saw in a newspaper, Editorial Tusquets, literary conquest. Advertisement in a newspaper that said, Editorial Tusquets, literary concurso, conquest. You send your novel and they choose the win. It's a prize.
Okay, sure. Conquest. It's a contest.
And then I when I get the rules of the prize, I realized that it was an erotic prize.
Okay.
So my novel, I was in the not paid holidays writing, and I said, well, I have to put some erotic things inside, and I bought all that I find about Henry Miller, Anais Nin, Baudelaire, and I began to think, well, how do you write erotic literature?
Sure. So who did you copy the most then?
Sorry?
Was it Henry Miller or Anais Nin, or who was it? Who did you get the best advice from?
Yes, they were both of them were very, very good writers in erotic literature, I think.
Exactly what was it that was so good?
The two were good writers. It doesn't matter that they write erotic things. I don't like erotic literature.
No, just for the sake of being erotic.
Yes.
No. But there wasn't any technique that they used that you copied. It was just good writing.
Good writing.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay.
So I sent it to the Tusquets editor, and I was one of the finalists there. So that was the first time that I think, well, maybe I can be a writer. Because
it gave you confidence?
Yes, it gave me confidence for the first time in my writing life.
And how old were you?
28.
Okay.
Then I started to write.
You went back to work?
I went back to work, but then I was working in a company because I was an accountant and I worked for Arthur Andersen, that was a very important auditing firm. But I get a job in a newspaper, in a magazine, a feminine magazine, and I give up accounting and started to work as a journalist in a magazine. And then I earned less money, but I was more happy.
That's an important trade-off. Yeah. Was that after the Dirty War, or because that ended in 83, right? 84?
Yes, it was after that.
After, okay.
Yes.
And so from there, you just kept writing in your private time and continued to write?
Yes, and then I started to study how to write scripts for the television, and I work a lot of years writing scripts. And nowadays I write scripts too, because Netflix are picking in all the world. I'm now working in a new series
yeah.
for them that is going to be a film next year in Buenos Aires.
Okay, so let's just get back to you won, or you were a finalist with the prize. How did you get that book published?
I never publish it. It is unpublished, and there is some kind of misunderstanding in Buenos Aires about it, and many times other editors, not my editor, ask me, is this real? Do you have it? Do you want me to publish that book? And the matter is not that it is erotic, because nowadays the erotic in this point is very funny, but it was my first book. I'm sure it is not so good, so I have to rewrite it. And I said, I leave it in a drawer, and maybe when I was die, my daughter or my son find it and make it money.
Okay.
But they had to the point that it's a erotic book of their mother.
Yeah, probably wouldn't want to read that.
Yes.
Yeah. So the next novel that you wrote, I'm interested in how you got it published.
Everybody thinks that my first novel is the 30 Widows.
What's it called?
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday's Widow, because it was the more famous. Before that, I published All Yours, but I became very well known with Thursday Widow because I won a very important prize in Argentina called Clarin Alfaguara. Clarin is a newspaper, Alfaguara is an editor. So with the Thursday Widows, I was very well known all around the country. And many people goes to read All Yours, thinking that was my second novel, but it was my first. So my first novel and my second novel, both of them, I think that the point to be published was winning prizes, because with the Thursday Widow, I won a very important prize, so they published me. And with All Yours, I didn't win, but I was one of the finalists. So they say, well, do you want to publish it, because you was one of the finalists?
So a publishing house approached you?
Yes.
Because you were a finalist?
Yes.
What was the name of that publishing house?
The first time it was published in an Argentine publishing house that is called Coligüe. But nowadays, All Yours is published by Alfaguara Random House, as all my books.
And that's because the first company was a small independent company, and they couldn't produce it in big numbers. Is that it?
Well, I have such kind of problems with them, so I decided to choose. But maybe I could stay there, but I prefer to change to the other company.
Okay. Well, they probably gave you more money as an advance too, did they?
Yes, but that's not the point. That's not the point, but some kind of misunderstanding.
So you kept winning prizes, and then when did you start right away doing screenplays? or you
Yes.
you did them in parallel?
No. When I started winning prizes and I was published in publishing houses, I started writing script because the job of write script, you can't write a novel while you are writing a script because it's a very hard job. You have to write maybe 50 pages in a day for the script.
Why?
Because you must. They say, well, tomorrow we have to film this and you have to change this and you have to write and write and write.
So it's an ongoing
Yes.
back and forth.
Yes.
So they're telling you what they want and you're...
Yes.
It's
you
not
have,
like you say, no, this
that's
is the
my
way
novel,
it is. Don't
no,
touch it.
No, because it's part of a very huge industry. So you have to rewrite a lot of things. And then when I began to publish novels, I prefer to write novels. So I keep on writing novels. But nowadays, times have changed again, and many of the most interesting stories are in the mainstream. In Netflix, HBO, and all those kind of telling stories like Mad Men or Sopranos or a lot of
I'm watching The Sopranos again now.
It's wonderful.
It was 20 years ago that they first started it, and I'm watching it again now, and it's aged quite well. It has
quite well.
It is mesmerizing to watch that for me.
Of course, I think that many of the best literature is done in those kind of stories. So there are 2 points. It's interesting, and in another way, it's a job that they pay you
much better.
Much better. So you can write a series and say, well, now I've stopped, I'm writing a novel that I know I will not be paid so good, but I like to do that.
Yeah.
But you need the money to survive. So it's very interesting to go and can come back.
And what's the difference? The main difference?
The main difference in writing one or the other?
Correct.
You are the owner of your novel. You do what you want there. You manage your times, you manage your words, you manage your characters. In the series, you are a little bit tight because you have to put it in a time. You have to make as a suspense that do people want to see the another
Each
chapter.
episode has to...
Yes, you have to send it to the company that ask you to write, and they say, well, it is okay, it's not, and you have to change that because you are an employee in such a way.
Okay.
So it's quite different. And another difference that for me it's a good point is when you write script, you write with another people. The script that I'm writing is not only my own. I write it with the director of the series, that is called Piñeiro like me, but he's a director. We are not family, and he's a very famous director, and we write together. So, and if we need another person, we can hire a person to write the dialogues, for example. So it's a team that writes the script. And it's nice.
It's like working with an editor, is it?
Yes, an editor, people that you say, do you think this will function or not function? No, don't say that. And the job of a writer is very lonely. When you write your novel, you are alone. Okay. And this kind of work is not so lonely, and I like it. To share and to confront what you want, what you think with another person.
You also have to take in mind what the audience wants to watch. Do you find that it's more you're trying to give them what they want?
No, I think that you don't. You have to be sincere and not to subestimate. Thinking that they are people less intelligent than you.
Don't underestimate
exactly.
them. Exactly.
Don't underestimate the audience. You don't have to give them what they want, I think.
Okay.
But sometimes companies don't buy you the story if you don't make a story that could be interesting for the audience. But be interested for the audience doesn't mean do what they want.
What does it mean then?
that it has to be something, a story with good characters, very good characters. I think that the interesting point is characters are the persons in the series.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
The suspense, it's very important.
But what do you mean about good characters? Like what? Like
Not
complex?
flat. Yes, complex.
Yeah.
A person that could be a good person, but that all make something that is not so good.
That's exactly like Tony Soprano.
Yes, of course. He's one of the mafia, but you like it.
Well, he's got a conscience.
Yes, of course.
A little bit of a conscience.
Of course. So I think that characters are the more important thing, and then the action. The action is very important. The structure. What do you show this chapter, and what do you keep for another chapter for make it suspense?
And how do you make suspense then?
That way, not telling all the things, giving clues, never lying. You don't have to. Some series lie and say, and you think, oh yes, I know what is happened, but they change it. You don't know why, and they do another thing. I think it is not fair. You have to put clues,
Yeah.
but never lie.
Well, that brings me to Borges. He was a fan of Edgar Allan Poe
Yes.
and G.K. Chesterton. And so I've got a couple of points, recommendations for writing a good story from both of them. I just want to know what you think about this. You need to know the ending before you begin to write. True or false for you?
I think it is true, but you think you know it, but sometimes you change it in the writing, because I think that point it's more it's better for short stories. In a short story, like Borges writes short stories,
Yeah.
it's easier to know the final. But when you write a novel, it's not so easy. I always began to write when I think I know the final, but sometimes in the writing I change it.
Yeah, Poe suggests that in order to give a plot its indispensable air of consequence and inevitability, unity of impression is essential.
Yes, that's Poe.
That's Poe.
Yes. Borges said something very interesting about Poe, that is, he believed that Poe didn't invent the noir or the police writing, but he invented the reader that reads noir. The reader, how to read in a noir clue. And then Borges said, nowadays we can read everything in a noir or a police clue. For example, he said in the Don Quixote, when it said, in a place called La Mancha, something that I don't remember the name, he said, why he don't remember? He was the assassin, or he is the death? And he started to play with this theory.
I don't quite understand. Can you explain it a bit better?
Yes, Borges said that Poe didn't invent it, the detective.
He invented the reader.
Exactly.
Okay,
because
so
he trained you to read in a detective way. Anyway.
So what's reading in the detective way? What's that?
He said, for example, in Don Quixote de la Mancha, that starts en un lugar de la Mancha del que no recuerdo su nombre, in a place called La Mancha that I don't remember the name. And you said, why he don't remember the name? He's the assassin? Or he's the accomplice?
Right, but it's also the author. Is the author saying this about a person?
No, it's the reader. It's the reader saying, when he began to read, a reader that is training in detective readings, he said,
questioning.
Yes, why he doesn't remember the name?
Who's saying that when you quoted?
It's a character.
It's a character, yeah, okay. So Borges said that Poe stimulated this kind of questioning on the part of the reader.
Yes, that Poe invented that kind of reading.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'll understand this, but the author needs to know what impression you want to leave with the reader. It requires a skill of manipulating the reader's emotion.
It's interesting. That's Poe.
Poe again, yeah.
Yes. It is interesting because many people said that Borges didn't make you feel emotions. What you feel is that you are reading something very intelligent.
Yeah, very
clever.
cerebral.
Yes,
yeah.
but not emotions. That's why I think it's very interesting that that Poe say that. Maybe with Poe you feel some things more emotional.
Yeah.
I like very much to know that readers feel emotions. Last week in the Buenos Aires Book Fair, I was in a conference and some women in the public raised her hand and said, well, I want to know why when I read some book of yours, for example, All Yours, I laugh all the time, and when I read A Little Bit of Luck, that is another, A Little Bit of Luck, Una Suerte Pequeña, that is another novel that I wrote, she said, I cry all day. So how do you do that? And I was very pleased because I like that she feel what I feel when I read it.
So how do you do that?
I don't know. I think that I always, when I write, I always see an scene, I imagine. I saw what is happening. I saw it in my mind,
okay.
And then
a scene.
I found the words to tell you exactly what I am seeing. Okay. But if what I am seeing has an emotion, I show it not saying the emotion. I don't say he is sad or he is happy.
No.
I must to show you what they are doing that you realize they are happy or they are very sad.
And how do you make her laugh?
I use a lot of ironic things.
Ironic.
Ironic.
Okay, sorry.
Because I like it very much, the ironic, like English people in the novels, English writers.
So can you give me an example?
What I want to say this that maybe help you to understand. Pirandello said that humor that worthwhile in literature is the one that when you laugh, then you immediately you think, how I am laughing of such a thing, terrible thing.
Yeah.
You laugh because you laugh, but then you think it is terrible. How can I laugh about this?
Yeah, it's what someone's suffering maybe.
Yes, or suffering or.
So you feel what, ashamed of yourself?
Sometimes.
For laughing?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Incidentally, I think that laughter and humor in a novel is one of the top criteria for a really good novel.
I like very much a English novelist called David Lush. I don't know if you.
Yeah,
I laugh at all when I read him.
He talks about academics.
Yes, but he has one of his last novel was called Death to Death. It's a professor that is losing the
deaf to death.
Yes, he's losing the deaf.
Hearing.
So you had a lot of dialogues between him and his wife, for example, and you say, what are they talking about? And then he said, excuse me, that's what I understood, but she never said that. Or for example, he has a lot of problems because as he doesn't understand, he always said yes, 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 and so
right.
He has a lot of problems with that.
Just finally on Poe, one of the things that he recommends is to set a tone by repeating a key note or a word or an image or a phrase throughout the story to sustain a mood. And an example, of course, with that would be in his poem, The Raven, where he uses nevermore. Mm-hmm. Do you use repeating images, refrains?
Sometimes, but when you write a novel, Poe writes shorter.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
But in a novel, you can repeat it, but sometimes you miss it in such many kind of pages.
Yeah.
I like to repeat it, and I like to repeat it in a different way. For example, you say something, and then when you repeat it, it means another thing. And when you repeat it again, it means more than the two previous times, just to increase the meaning.
Yeah.
For example, in this novel that I said before, called Una suerte pequeña, such a very small luck, or a bit of luck, something like that is the name. It began with a train accident, but you don't know that it is a train accident. I start to say there is a car in front of the rail, and she said some sounds, and then many pages before I start to write more about that moment, and in the whole novel it starts three or four situations, and it finish in a whole chapter, always referring to the same point, the car in front of the rail. Do you understand?
Maybe the listeners will understand.
Okay, I hope so.
So this is G.K. Chesterton, and he said that a detective story differs from other stories in that the reader is only happy if he feels a fool.
If he feels?
If he feels silly because he was being led on, didn't understand, and then finally, oh, that's what it all means.
Yes, I think you must, the reader must feel he's very intelligent, but in the last moment he must feel you are a little bit more intelligent than him, because if not, why?
He would have figured it out before.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
Okay. We are suddenly confronted with a truth which we have never suspected, and yet now we see that it can be true.
Yes, but that's the point that I say about lying. You must not lie. If the reader wants to read it again, he must find the clues to know the truth. He didn't realize, but they must be there. I think so.
The side of the character that can't be connected to the crime has to be presented first. The crime comes next, and it's presented in complete contrast to the side of the character that's being shown. And then there's a psychological reconciliation. Mm-hmm. Does that work for you?
I don't think so. I think that that thing has changed a lot in this year, and you have many ways to tell a story, because readers are training to read in different ways. I think the cinema train people to read different books, because when you see a film, you have ellipses, you have flashback, you have flash forwards, so the person that is looking a movie knows what is happening, and then in the writing we start to use that kind of ellipses, fast forward, thinking that reader can catch it.
You say that the introduction of cinema made the reader more savvy, more aware,
more aware, I think, and to understand some kind of things that are not said. He can imagine more, because cinema produce that kind of things.
Is cinema hugely popular in Argentina, or?
It's popular, but in the last years it declined because less people goes to the cinema.
Netflix.
Yes,
now, right?
we used to see cinema at home more than in the cinema, but although many people goes to the cinema, and in Argentina there is a very interesting founding to film Argentine movies. They give money to new directors.
Grants.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So there is a very good movies in Argentina.
And they're mostly shown on TV? Or
No, mostly in cinema.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the population of Argentina? 60, is it?
Maybe. I think.
60 million?
Yes, I don't know really now because the last census was
Yeah.
in 2010, but maybe more than 50 millions, of course.
The story is written for that moment when the reader finally understands.
The first?
The story, the
Sí.
whole story,
Yes.
the whole purpose of the story,
Yes.
it's written for that moment when the reader finally understands.
Yes, I think so. I think that in this kind of novel, of course, maybe another kind of novels, no, not.
But your kind of novel.
Yes, I think so.
Because that's what you really want. You
Yes.
get them to a point where
Yes,
suddenly
but-
they understand.
But I always give up writing before telling all. I want you to write in your mind the last word. I give you all the points, but I don't want the moraleja or the conclusion to say, well, this is that way.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah.
to take what's the way. I
Okay.
put all the things, but I keep 2 or 3 things that you must join and say that's the point, because I think that the reader must be active in the reading.
It's funny you should mention that. It puts me in mind of the Mueller report. He gives it to Congress and he says, here's all the evidence, now you figure it out.
Yes.
The soul of detective fiction is not complexity, but simplicity. A secret may appear complex, but it must be simple.
Yes, I think the more simple is better. And in reality, always is the more simple the way. Maybe we start to think very real things, strange things, and the way is the simple one. Like in the Stolen Letter. Do you remember the short story from Poe? The Stolen Letter, I don't know, La Carta Robada.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
The stolen letter. It's a letter that nobody can find, and the letter is over the desk. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think so.
It is in a more common place that you can show it.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Yes, obvious. Yeah. Everybody is looking for it in
and
different places, and it is on your face.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess in a way, this is Chesterton saying that I suppose it might be like a detective story is delivered a bit like a joke, with a punchline. Would you agree with that?
Repeat me, please.
It's just has a sort of similar structure to a joke.
I think that there is very different kind of detective novels. Or maybe the name detective novel is only for some kind of novels in the huge universe of crime novels. But there is a lot of crime novels that is not in accordance to this point. I think that detective novels maybe are a joke, but Simenon is not a joke.
But what?
Simenon, the French writer.
Oh, yes.
Is not a joke. Chandler is not a joke. Dashiell Hammett is not a joke, because they make very important books. It doesn't matter if they are crime novels or not, because you are reading a very good novel, very good literature. That kind of crime novels are not joke.
Yeah.
But there is some kind of novels, maybe the way that Agatha Christie that has a little relation with joke, because it's they are like jokes that you have to choose your own adventure and say it was him, no, it was she, and that kind of joke. But I think that the crime novels that I prefer are not joke.
Just change gear here. The Argentinian government, do they provide grants to writers or not?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
They don't. I know they don't fund the National Library very well.
No. Mangels told you. I know. Because we are in a very important crisis, economic crisis, and we always are in a very economic crisis.
Yeah.
So when they have
inflation is crazy.
Yes, inflation is crazy, 50 per year. So when you have no money to run a hospital or to give, always they cut the budget of culture.
Yeah.
They think culture is not important. I think it's a mistake, because you have to have readers in your society, to have better citizens.
Yeah.
And culture is very important to have a good country. But what rules the country, the government said, well, we have no money, we have to cut culture grants or festivals and libraries, and that's the point.
So why does literature make better citizens then?
Because it's open your mind and show you a different way of thinking. You are everybody is different, and you don't see the world like I see the world.
Yeah.
You look the world in this window, and maybe I'm looking the window opposite, and I see a world and you see another world.
Okay.
And we can be friends or not, but we can live in the same country, in the same city, without quarreling.
As long as you empathize
Yes,
with the
of
other's
course.
view.
I think that literature is a very important training to empathize with the other.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to empathize with the other, and society are more peaceful, more free when you can empathize with the other. Doesn't matter the difference.
Yeah. It's more peaceful.
Yes, I think.
Yeah. Just finally, we're talking about screenplays and Netflix, and do you think fewer people than ever are reading in Argentina, or more, or the same, or what?
I think that people read the same. I don't think that people read less, because people that want to read don't give up reading because of the series. Maybe give up cinema, or give up another kind of going outside to do another things. But the people that is around me reads a lot. It doesn't mean that everybody reads a lot, but I saw my daughter, my sons, their friends read, and something that is happening is that all the communication in young people is by reading, because you read your telephone, you read your
text,
computer, you read your text. So there is a training in reader anyway, but you have to read other kind of things. That's the point. But sometimes, because of you read something in Twitter, you say, well, I want to read it, and you look it for it, and you pick the book. And I think that the kind of communication put you in contact with more reading, with more possibility to read. You can read in your computer a lot of things.
Yeah.
You realize about an author that you never hear about him or her. So I think it's quite a good moment.
Just finally, what's the best thing about being a writer in Argentina?
What's the
best thing? Getting interviewed by people like me?
Yes, of course. Well, I think that writing is like a maldición, Adam, when you say you will have something that you can escape from. If you want to write, how do you say maldición? If you are a writer, you write, and it doesn't matter if it is good or it is bad. You write. You can do another thing. You must write.
Yeah.
So I am the person that I am because I write. If I didn't write, I will be another person. No? you don't write for the money because you don't earn many money.
Not even you, who have all these
No.
bestsellers?
I can manage with my money, but you are not rich.
No. Okay.
And you travel all along the world because they pay for you
To come here.
Yes, if not you couldn't go.
Yeah.
And
So that's a good thing.
yes, of course, I know many places in the world that I would never known if I wasn't a writer. But that's not the point. Because I write because I must write. I
Yeah.
can be what I say if
Yeah.
what I am if I don't write. That's
Yeah.
the point.
It's part of how you live.
Exactly. It's part of yourself.
And that's the best thing. What about Argentina in particular, though? Do they respect writers down there?
More or less, not so much. They respect more actresses or sports, of course. But in the last year, there was some kind of debates about abortion, about human rights, about women's rights, and many of us, writing people, writers, took place. Because took the microphone and said what we think about the theme. Because for a long time, writers abandoned being an intellectual, saying the word, saying what they think about the economy, the politics, the rights, etc.
Yeah.
And the two last year, we started to say again what we think and taking a place that I think it's better because we have a responsibility in society and we have the opportunity to say things that another people can't. So, for example, for me, it was very important last year. I participated in all the debates about abortion law. I went to the Congress to talk to the deputies and then to the senators as a writer about abortion.
It gives you a platform.
Yes, to say them why women in Argentina needs to have a legal abortion and not to do it in their homes, killing herself. It was a very important moment for writers, journalists, and so on to take the place as a citizen, to say, well, I think this is the better way. Do you understand?
I do. Yeah, I do. And that makes you feel fulfilled because you're making a difference.
Yes, it was wonderful in a play in such a way, and for example, some people say to me, well, maybe it will be a bad things for you that sell a lot of books and many people read you because that's people that doesn't think like you won't read
buy
it.
your books.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You think what you think. You can choose that. You can change that. 3 of my novels talk about abortion. Yes. But for example, in the first novel, All Yours, there is a young girl that think about abortion, and then she decided not to do the abortion. I think that we have to have a law for legal abortion, but not all women must do it. Only who wants to, who needs to.
They need the choice.
It's a choice. So I have 3 books that takes the point of abortion. And what happened finally, maybe many people is angry with me, and maybe they don't read me, but there is a lot of young people that know about me because my position in the debate. And this year,
they will buy your books.
Yes, they say me, I know you, now I want to read you because I want to know how you read. And many times in the book fair in Buenos Aires, years ago, the most of the public was all women or all men that go to the conference. And this year, the most of them was young people because they know me about the fight for the legal abortion law, and said, well, I want to know how she writes. So what they say about it would be very bad for you, it won't.
Well, I'm very glad that they paid for you to come here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Excuse me because of my words English, and as the time goes, I keep tired and I can think.
Yeah. You don't have jet lag though?
No. But I'm talking with you at the first moment. I think better, but now I'm tired.
Well, it's time to get coffee and a meal, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
I've been speaking with Claudia Pineiro, and she is published in English by Bitter Lemon Press. Is that out of England?
Yes, my news 2 books are coming by Charco Press. That is another book house in Edinburgh.
In Edinburgh. And what's it called again, the house?
Charco Press.
Charco?
Press.
Charco?
Yes.
Charco Press. And what's the title?
Elena knows, but Elena is a name. Elena knows, but I don't know.
Elena
knows.
Knows.
Yes, but I don't know if they keep in the same title, because sometimes just the same title is not so good for another languages.
Good. Well, we'll look for that. Thanks again.
Thank you.